Alright guys, it's the one you've been waiting for. It's finally here. It's finally done. The Burning Totem build is basically perfected. As you can see on a max tier Zest, I'm not even playing a Titan. Like, you have to realize this. This isn't even a Titan. Like, imagine if I swapped a Titan. My damage would double. Like, I can delete the boss with absolutely no effort. Even without a Deepest Tower Helm, it's super easy to do pinnacles with this. Like, this is so budget and it's so versatile. Totems are so strong in 0.2, and I don't think they're getting nerfed. I think this is going to be strong forever. This is really, really good. Like, totems are so good, and they're so good in every form of content. Even with no Deepest Tower Helm, when the Deepest Tower nerf hits, this is still going to be 100% viable. This is really, really strong. Once again, this is what it looks like if you run a Deepest Tower on a Smith, not even on a Titan, and he absolutely thumps the boss. So you're getting millions of damage with like very, very little effort and on a very low budget. Once again, no Deepest Tower, still totally viable. Not even playing a Titan and still dishing out millions and millions of damage. So extremely viable, extremely cheap. It's like super comfortable to play because you don't actually have to get close to the boss if you don't want to. And of course, it is extremely good in Simulacrum. Max tier Simulacrum is quite literally just a stroll around the max tier Simulacrum. You just walk in circles and everything else gets sorted out by your totems. So this is super strong. It handles all the content extremely well. The only thing totems don't do super well is mapping, but I've done enough testing and tweaking on the mapping that now mapping with totems feels really, really good. And I actually enjoy mapping with totems thoroughly. So max tier Simulacrum, super easy. Totems are extremely strong, late as an in-game warrior build. Absolutely amazing, very good, very versatile. Totems are, in my opinion, the best trial farmer, just by the fact that the bosses are extremely easy and you're able to ignore a lot of hazard damage. They're also the best Sekimus farmer, in my opinion, because you're able to protect your honor and you're able to move around the map really easily in Trials of Sekimus. So I think this is an amazing Trials of Sekimus farmer, and the fact that you can set this all up for so cheap is insane. Like, this is such a versatile build. It does so many things so well that it's just amazing. Now, mapping is the one thing where totems will never be the best by virtue of the fact that you can't aim them. Because they aim themselves, you end up having to walk around in circles a little bit sometimes in maps. But I made a bunch of edits to mapping and that feel very good, and the mapping feels pretty smooth. I was initially much more critical of totems and mapping, but I think I've changed my mind. I actually like them quite a bit. And the reason they make mapping so smooth is you're able to walk around and loot while your totems kill enemies. So you're able to take advantage of the similar feeling of running a minion build. So it's actually very good. I'm actually enjoying, after I swapped another build to try mapping and then switch back to totems, I realized I enjoyed totems a lot. But even in juiced maps with lots of delirium, and I've managed to set it up so that it's very comfortable. And I made a couple little switches around for dealing with delirium bosses that feel really good, because I was previously just letting them die like that. But I made a couple little swaps, and I'm even really happy with those swaps as well. Okay guys, I'm going to run a map, and I'm just going to show you how it works, okay? And this is just whatever map, but I'm just going to show you how the skill rotation works. I'm not going to put delirium on the map because I want you to be able to see what is going on in the map, and what skills I'm using and why I'm using those skills, so that you understand how the rotation works. And I think this build is super ethical, and I don't think it's getting nerfed. I think this is going to be like a really good build long term. I don't think there's anything busted about this. I think it could only go up from here, honestly. I think as more things get introduced, I think this is just going to be a stronger and stronger build as time goes on. But when you're running through the map, you basically walk every few steps, and you just throw down a totem. Really annoying enemy. Where did he go? Oh, he's dead. Anyways, you walk every few steps, you throw down a totem, and you just move through the map like that. Now, if you get to an area where you think that you might be in danger of some kind, and as you can see, I can move really fast through the map with this setup. The setup makes me extremely speedy. It's like, so if you're in a spot like, well, I mean, they're all dead now, unfortunately. I was going to say, if you're in a spot where you feel like you're in danger, I'll show you how that setup works. But basically, you just run through the map. Oh, come on, stupid spirit. You run through the map, and you just tap your totem kind of every 3 to 4 seconds. You just throw down a totem. Totem will deal with all the enemies. If you think you're in danger, you throw out an earthquake. And your earthquake is going to act like your CC. Right? And that's going to handle taking care of CCing enemies that you think might be dangerous. So that's how you deal with those enemies. We'll just run through this way. Now, mobility with this is really good with this setup, just because we've stacked as much movement speed as we can to make mobility actually feel good when you're mapping. Mobility with this setup feels really, really good. So you have a super good mobility for moving through maps. And it makes the game feel really, really good because you're actually fast. Like, you can just see how fast I move through the map, right? Throw down an earthquake if you feel like you're in danger. Pretty much never feel like I'm in danger, but I'm just showing you kind of the idea behind it, right? Of why you would do that, what the logic is. If you get to an area where you feel like you're in danger, or you see like a big pack of enemies, you know, like there's a lot of enemies, you throw out an earthquake, right? Now all the enemies are slowed and they can't really get to you. It's the logic behind that, right? It acts kind of like a temporal chains. So when you're running through the map, and if you're in like a juice map, this is going to be important. And I mean, this is just like a tier 16 with like some damage and projectile modifiers and whatever else on it, whatever junk, right? So get to this, and now you're at the boss. Now, to do a proper bossing damage, you're going to want to run a 2-hammer setup, because 2 hammers gives you a lot of damage. But if you're lazy like me and you don't want to constantly have to switch, you have a secondary totem. And your secondary totem is your boss damage. Now, if you really want to one-shot the boss, you'll switch to 2 hammers and use your secondary totem. But I'm usually too lazy. So what I do is I just use my secondary totem and just kill the boss that way. And I don't bother to switch most of the time because I'm just a lazy turd. And I feel like the bosses die pretty fast anyway, so I don't really worry about it. But anyways, you get the idea. But that's pretty much the setup. You use Earthquake as a CC skill, and your Earthquake covers the whole screen. If you really wanted to make this extra safe, you add Temporal Chains with Spirit on your Amulet and your armor. If you're playing like a Titan or a Warbringer, because you're not going to be running Smith armor, then you could add Temporal Chains really easily, combine it with this Earthquake here, and then your totems will clean up the trash. The Earthquake is just for crowd control. And because it's so big and it covers so much of the screen, all the enemies are getting slowed in that. But that's pretty much it. So, okay, guys, after doing loads and loads of testing with totems, I think this is kind of the sweet spot. I think this is really, really good if you're playing fire totems, especially. Everything is set up in a way that synergizes extremely well. And even if some of the items are nerfed or changed, this should still be pretty viable going forward in the future. I'll take you through how I set up the totems. I have the mapping set up on here right now. Now, obviously, you're going to want to switch this around if you're doing like a pinnacle boss or something. But the mapping setup will be on the max roll, just so you'll be able to see it there. So the mapping, I'm using the Sunder Totem with the Upheaval, the Fire Infusion, the Entrance Urgency, and the Martial Tempo. So this is similar to what I was using before. So when I'm walking, I'm just throwing down a totem. So that's your primary clearing skill. Now, if you come across an enemy, like an Omniphobia, for example, when you're mapping through a juiced map, you have a secondary totem that comes out a little slower, right? That's your Rolling Slam. So the secondary totem that comes out a little slower, this one is just for strong tanky enemies or bosses. And the reason you have this secondary totem setup is just because it is so much smoother. Instead of this, your standard totem will kill the boss, but it'll kill the boss a lot slower. And you don't have to switch any gems around. You don't have to switch this gem setup all around to kill the bosses, because you can just use this second totem with this gem setup to kill bosses. And when you go to do a pinnacle, you can swap a couple things around if you really want pinnacle boss damage. but this is the best way for fast comfort. Like this will make everything feel very comfortable because you don't have to change things around all the time. So this really smooths out your progression when you're just mapping and you're chilling, you're playing, you're relaxing, you're playing through the map. Omniphobia spawns, you hit them with a hard totem, you slap down an earthquake, right? So you got a couple of rolling slam totems on them. You maybe have one sunder totem or two sunder totems up to clear out trash, and you throw down your rolling slam totem to kill the boss. And this obviously works better when you're playing mouse and keyboard. I'm just playing controller because I'm lazy and I like to play with my feet up. And I work on my computer all day, so I don't want to play at my computer and work at my computer. So yeah, with the controller setup, it's way easier with a mouse and keyboard setup because you can actually aim your totems better. But that is how these two things are set up. So on the Rolling Slam totem, I just have Elemental Focus, Physical Mastery, Conk Effect, and Primal Armament. So this is just a quick swap because every boss in the game is going to die so fast, except max tier pinnacle bosses, that you never need to change anything here. You can just run this setup unless you're killing a max tier pinnacle boss. So just keep that in mind, that this is your quick setup for bossing. And usually I don't even switch to two hammers. Like my two hammer setup is where I have the most damage. But usually because the average boss is so weak, you never have to switch to this. Like you're going to kill every boss. And this is so budget. Like you got to understand how budget this is. The only part of my gear that's really expensive is this shield. And everything else is mostly budget, right? A lot of this stuff is just stuff that I bought from the start of the season and I've just kind of ran the whole season. This shield is expensive, but the shield isn't necessary at all. You can literally use this cheap, crappy shield and this performs just fine. You just lose a little bit of damage. The shield gives you a nice damage boost, which is why it's nice to have, but you don't actually need it. This other shield works totally fine. I used this shield forever and I didn't mind it at all. I did max tier simulacrum with this crappy shield. I didn't even use this good one. So this shield's totally viable. You can get away with using this crappy shield and just all this kind of stuff, right? But Earthquake is a really, really nice skill. It's really, really nice and it combines really well with everything else. Now, Earthquake, when you throw it down, boom, it covers the whole screen. Like you can just see how big that Earthquake is. And it stays for a long time. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like this thing CCs enemies for a long time with the added bonus of popping and doing a bunch of free damage. So it not only acts as a really, really strong crowd control skill, which is really good. This is how you make max tier simulacrum feel easy. You just run a big earthquake like this, slows all the enemies down in simulacrum, and then they can't get to you. So this is how you make max tier simulacrum feel really, really easy. You just throw down a big earthquake, enemies are all slowed. And like you can see how much of the screen this covers. Like it runs all the way over to here. Like it slows enemies down in a really, really wide area. So this is really, really good. If you're playing hardcore or you just don't want to lose experience, this is really, really strong. And everything you put on this is just to increase the size of the earthquake itself. So you use Fist of War to ancestrally boost it. Ancestrally boosted skills have more area of effect. Then you add Expanse to increase the area of effect. You add Reach to increase the area of effect. You add Magnified Effect to increase the area of effect. And then you add Encumbrance to slow enemies down. So this covers a huge portion of the screen and slows enemies down. Now, if you really were desperate for survivability, you're not playing a smith, you could add Spirit on your armor and your amulet, and you'd have enough to run temporal chains. So that is also a very good option. Leap Slam is just for mobility, for getting around, and Shield Charge is just for mobility as well. So Shield Charge just gets you around faster. That's the whole purpose of that. And Leap Slam also just gets you around faster. So these gems don't matter that much. Cadence is nice because it makes you Leap Slam a little faster just when you're using it. You can leap slam around a little faster, which is just nice for mobility. And then, of course, your shield charge is also really nice because you combine your leap slam and your shield charge, you can get around the maps really, really quickly, especially when you combine it with some other things, which include our juicy little pet buddy here, who is absolutely fantastic. So we got this Antlion Charger, and he has Haste Aura and all damage shocks. So it's super important you get the Haste Aura and all damage shocks. I won't go into this stuff too much because I talked about this in the previous video, and this setup hasn't really changed. It's just Meat Shield, Elemental Army, Overcharge, and Last Gasp. So this is just for shocking enemies for extra damage. And then Haste Aura is super nice because it lets you move a little bit faster. So again, more movement speed thanks to this little fella. So we have even more movement speed. So now our character doesn't feel slow and clunky. And there's other ways that we get even more movement speed on the tree. By utilizing this node here and this node here on weapon set 1, we're able to get a bunch more movement speed. We're also able to get movement speed here, which is really, really good. So this setup feels really, really good. That's why I have it set up that way. But that's basically the whole skill setup, just so you can see. And the solar orb setup and the flammability setup is the same as it was before, so I won't go into that. And the deepest tower is here. So I was using this, but you don't even need this. So if this gets nerfed, I already did videos explaining how this works, so I'm not going to go into it again. This helmet, everyone's abusing it now. This kind of like the cornerstone. I'm pretty sure it's getting nerfed, but you can abuse this if you really want to one-shot bosses, but you don't need this. You don't need this helmet at all. I'll point out some ways on the tree you could utilize this if you want. You just have to combine it with your execute support, obviously, right? Where is it? Your execute support, right? There you go. So that's the whole purpose behind this. You just use these two things together, but you don't need this. Like this is totally strong on its own. You don't need this at all. And you don't even need this, honestly. You can get by with just this crappy shield if you're playing a smith. If you're not playing a smith, I probably wouldn't run this crappy shield. I'd probably run, well, I mean, this shield would still be fine even if you're playing like a Titan or a Warbringer. But I might run like a Svalin, or maybe just like a good shield with like health, strength, block chance, some good resists on it, some stun threshold, maybe, just whatever else. The shield's not necessary. It's just a nice damage boost for mapping. And it's kind of nice in Simulacrum because you get a little damage boost there, but it's not necessary at all. You can get away without it. And this shield is totally fine for cheap. So if you can't find a better shield, just use one of these. This shield's actually amazing. It's really, really good. So this shield is absolutely fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it, especially if you're playing a smith. This is like one of the best cheap shields for a smith ever. Items. So I'm running 3 hammers because I hate swapping hammers back and forth between my weapon sets. And my first hammer that I've been using for mapping, I stuck a couple of skill speed socketed into it. The reason I stuck skill speeds instead of elemental cores is because it feels better, because you can shield charge around and leap slam faster. And that just feels good because it gives you maximum mobility. Like this character's so fast. Like he gets around so fast now. It feels great to play this. That is how that's set up. Trying to text me. Anyways, so on the rings, most important thing is flat damage. Flat damage applies to your totems. Percentage damage applies to your totems as well, but flat damage actually does apply to your totems, and it's really nice to have flat damage. So you want to have flat damage, and then the other ones are just life, strength, regeneration, resistances, whatever, right? Same thing on the other ring. Flat damage, life. This one's got rarity, strength, fire resistance. Flat damage on your rings applies to your totem damage, so that will increase your totem damage. So you want big flat on your rings, and you want lots of life. As you can see, my life is at 3,800. You want a large health pool in this game. The most important defensive layers in this game are right here: HP and resists. These are the most important thing. These 3 resists, a little bit of chaos, and this life right here. The rest of this stuff is way less important. Block is nice. It's not super important unless you're playing a Warbringer. Then it's really, really nice because you get block all hits. But mostly what's important is life and all of these. And obviously if you have invasion and energy shield, you're laughing. But if you're playing a warrior, you're not going to have that usually. So life and resists. You want to get these as high as possible for things to feel comfortable, right? And if you're running this shield, it feels super comfortable. So just keep that in mind. This shield's really, really nice. It makes things really, really comfy if you just want a cheap shield, because it gives you a lot of resist and a lot of regeneration. And the max fire resistance is really, really nice if you're playing a smith. But anyways, And helmet, I just have the same helmet I've always been running. I've had this helmet forever. It's just strength, int, life. The reason I like having the int on the helmet is because it gives me enough int to run these curses and exposure effects. Amulet, of course, all melee skills. So you just got to get all melee skills. I wish this one had life on it as well. Life would be really, really good. You want to max out your life and get as high as possible, because the more life you have, the better the game feels to play, because you don't get one shot by everything. Boots, same thing. I've always had max life, strength, fire res. Belt, life, strength, fire res, cold res, strength, obviously, and gloves. Gloves are important. So gloves, flat damage, important. This applies to your totems. Flat damage applies to your totems. 2 to all melee skills, because you want your melee skills to be high as possible. Same thing with the hammers. As much melee skills as possible, as much melee skills as possible, much melee skills as possible. Now, if you're playing an elemental totem build, you're going to want the elemental rolls. And if you can get attack speed on your hammer, it is nice quality of life. But the thing about the attack speed on your hammer is it's worthless for your totems. Skill speed applies to your totems. Attack speed doesn't. So if you get attack speed on your hammer, the only benefit it has is it just makes you leap slam and earthquake a little bit faster, which is nice. Don't get me wrong. That's a nice plus. So if it does come with attack speed, it's an added bonus. But the most important is just these melee skills and elemental damage. Now you'll still notice on all my hammers is the same: elemental damage, melee skills, elemental damage, melee skills. That's what makes totems so strong and so good. They're super budget because all you really need to run them is melee skills. If you just have melee skills, and if you just find hammers that are just regular melee skills hammers and they don't have these elemental damage, you can just run a non-avatar of fire setup. I'm running an avatar of fire setup, but totems are going to work totally fine even without avatar of fire. So I'm just running a fire totem build because I'm a fire enjoyer, but you could run a non-fire totem build and it's going to be really strong as well. So you could kind of copy what I've done and just take the fire aspects out of it and switch to more fizz damage, and it's still going to be just as good. It might even be a little bit better if you have the right setup. But this is how I have it set up. It's just the elemental damage, melee skills on all the hammers. And the reason I have 3 hammers instead of just 2 is because I'm too lazy to constantly switch hammers. Sometimes I just like to walk up to the boss and just swap hammers and just kill him that way, you know, because I just, it's so much more convenient, and I'm a lazy player. So the thing that is important to note on your gloves, besides your flat damage, of course, your all melee skills, is this attack speed. Attack speed on your gloves. Attack speed on your weapon doesn't apply to your totems, but attack speed on your gloves applies to your totems. So you have to be mindful of this, because this is a really, really, really nice boost. So you get the flat, you get life, ideally if you can get it, melee skills, and attack speed. Even if you just get melee skills and attack speed, it might even feel better than having flat, because attack speed does feel a lot better. It feels better for moving around. It feels better for your totems. It feels better for mapping. Attack speed just feels really nice. So attack speed, melee skills, flat damage. That's what you want. And then of course life. You always want life, because if your health pool's low, this game feels horrible to play. But that's basically it when it comes to items and how you want it set up. If you got any questions about it, just throw it down below and I'll fill in the blanks for you. But skill tree, I made a bunch of little tweaks to my skill tree that feel really, really good, and I'm happy with how they feel. Obviously, if you were playing this on a Titan or a Warbringer, you could get more damage or more survivability, depending on how you set it up. But path down here, I've showed all this before. I'm only going to talk about the things that I've changed. This stuff's all the same. This stuff's all the same. So if you're curious about how I set it up before, you can go back and watch my previous video. This is a weapon set split right here. Comes up, boom, 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 boom. This is all for double hammers on weapon set 2. So big boss damage, right? This split comes up and it loops through all of this stuff, right? Just zips through all that. So that's one weapon split right there. Come down here. I did another weapon set split right here. If I had enough points, like if I was level 98, I would just go level 95, 96, 97 and grab the last 3 points right here. So that's what I would do with my last 3 points if I had 3 more points. So that's where I would path, because I would just grab more damage, because you can just grab more damage if you come this way. And that's just extra damage. So I just loop over here and grab more damage for these totems.
Came down here, grabbed Polished Iron because it will avoid stuns. Now this jewel you could swap out if you want. If I change this jewel, I could get more damage. The reason I've left this jewel in is because I'm taking advantage of the maxed fire resistance on this jewel. Because I'm getting +3 max fire res. And because resistance are such an important defensive layer, that's why I have these. Now these are split for weapon set 1 because you need more resist for mapping than you do for bossing, because bosses die so fast it doesn't matter. So that's why I have these set up on weapon set 1. And then this one's on both weapon sets. These are on both weapon sets. This one's on weapon set 1, and this one's on both weapon sets, and this one's on weapon set 1. Now this one's important. I'll come back to that later and explain to you why this is really, really nice. I also anointed this on my amulet, which feels really good. So it places totems quickly, and it also increases that attack and cast speed, which is really, really nice, especially when you're mapping, because it makes moving around feel better because your attack speed is now increased every time you summon totems. It's like, and you can see how fast I can move around the map this way. It's very, very comfy. This is a very, very comfy mapping setup. And maps is the worst thing for totems. Totems is amazing in everything but maps, and with this setup in maps, it actually feels pretty good. It feels really good. Like, it's not Lightning Spear, but Lightning Spear is getting nerfed, so can't even talk about that. This is insane though. This is like really good in maps. I actually love it. I have a lot of fun with it. Blood magic. I still have this Megalomaniac with volcanic skin. I grabbed all this resist stuff. This is a weapon set split for mapping right here at these 3 points. That's still the same. Split right here for just more damage on weapon set 2, so that's still there. The Avatar of Fire stuff came down here, grabbed the Giant's Blood. Now I grabbed it, split this way, I came up, I grabbed all these points. Now to path for your deepest tower, you just split right here and you go boom, 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 boom. You can path to your deepest tower setup extremely easily from here because you're already in these nodes anyway, and you just loop in and just grab those. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you got all those nodes, and then you can continue along your way. So if you're running a deepest tower setup, you can run it that way. There's also some other things you can do up here as well if you're running a deepest tower setup with presence area. So if you're running a deepest tower setup, you can path up here and grab all of these presence area of effect. So if you're running this, you're going to want more presence area of effect if you're running it all the time. I don't really use it because I don't find I need it, but you can utilize these if you want. So if you want to readjust some points up here, you can grab this. If you're running crit as well, you can also take advantage of this. I'm still running Resolute Technique, so I'm not running crit, but if you wanted to run crit, you could. And again, you can grab all this presence stuff, you grab all this crit stuff. So if you're in here running crit and you want to run crit on your totems, you can take advantage of this presence stuff. You can take advantage of this crit stuff if you want to set that up. But anyways, that's how you path to those. Come down here, I split right here, and then I did another split right here for weapon set 2. Grabbed all this totem stuff right here. Looped in here on weapon set 1 just to grab area of effect stuff, right? So this is the split right here, split off. This is just on my shield side. Now the reason this is on my shield setup is because I want more area of effect with my shield setup, and I want more cooldown. And the reason I want more cooldown is because it increases the reduces the cooldown on my shield charge and reduces the cooldown on my earthquake. So that is just a really, really nice quality of life thing. So split there, grab all that stuff. Come over here. I grabbed Polymathy because I needed attributes. If I had enough attributes with it, I would probably drop all this and just take more damage. So that's just an example of damage that I didn't even bother to get that would make this even stronger. Like this could do so much more damage. I grabbed all this attack speed. All this attack speed is really good. Applies to your totems. Feels really nice to play with attack speed because your character doesn't feel so slow and clunky. Came up here. Now, the biggest change I've made that feels very, very good is I added this jewel, I updated this jewel to a nicer jewel. I would probably put another jewel like that into here and get way more damage if I wanted to, but I just haven't done that. So yeah, there's that. But I pathed down this way and I grabbed this node here. Glancing blows, block chances doubled. Now this synergizes with this shield, right? Because you gain 1% of damage per 1% chance to block. This node doubles your block chance. So this gives you a boatload of damage. So this is a very, very strong node when you're using this shield particularly. So this is a big damage boost for the shield. And then I did a weapon set split here for weapon set 1 for my shield set, just so that I could use parrying motion. And parrying motion is what makes you move really fast. So the reason this setup is so good with the weapon set split here, this is also weapon set 1, and the weapon set split here, which is also weapon set 1. And then the combination of using this node with this shield is it makes you move very fast and it gives you some survivability. You combine it with this node here on the tree, which recovers life when you block. This node also recovers life when you block. And your block chance is doubled, but 50% of the damage goes through your blocked hits. But these two nodes completely solve that because you get health back every time you block. So even if you block and you take some damage, you get 25 health back every single time you block. Because your block chance is so high, you're basically getting all your health back for blocking without having to run extra block. So all those blocked hits you're just getting like fed back HP. So this is extremely comfy when you're mapping, right? And then when you're doing a split for boss damage with these nodes and these nodes and these nodes, you're obviously not going to need this. So that's kind of a wasted node for that, but your boss damage is so good, it doesn't matter. So this is just a really nice quality of life thing for mapping. And obviously you could drop this if you had enough attributes and take even more damage, just as an example, right? There's all kinds of damage you could take, like all this damage. You know, if you're running a deepest tower setup, you could take all the deepest tower setup damage. You could path up here, grab this deepest tower setup damage. It's right here. You have all this damage right here. You have lay siege right here too, if you're running the shield setup. If I was playing a Warbringer, I probably would have built this tree a little bit differently, but I'm playing a Smith. So if I was playing a Warbringer, I might even come this way, honestly, and just grab lay siege because it could loop in this way and then grab this block chance with lay siege. And then I could come down here and grab this and then grab this, just as an example. But yeah, this is how the changes I've made to it. This feels extremely good. Absolutely deletes every bit of content in the game with very, very minimum effort. It's extremely safe. I think this is one of the best warrior builds you could possibly put together due to the fact that it's absolutely dirt cheap. You need very little items to make it work. The shield's expensive, but everything else is pretty, medium cheap. So you could set this up for really cheap. It's going to be able to do all the content in the game extremely, extremely well. Extremely well. Chaos Trials extremely easy. Everything in this game is easy. Simulacrums. The only thing is it's not amazing at mapping, but with this setup, it feels really good with mapping. So yeah, this totem build is absolutely amazing. It's really fantastic. I've been having tons of fun with it. But that's pretty much it. If this helped you, do whatever you got to do. Smash that like button. Throw a comment down below. There's too many people on YouTube farming you and just like giving you really crappy advice, and you see like lots of people like post videos saying they're the greatest build ever, and you open up the video and the build is absolutely terrible, and they're just like telling you like absolute garbage and farming you for views on their monetized channel. But yeah, if this helped you, do whatever you got to do, like, send it to your friends, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Okay, these are the different setups you use when you go into different forms of content in this game. So this is the mapping setup, and this is what I will leave on the max roll because it's what you're going to be using most of the time. But when you go in to run different forms of content, you make changes to this. So you take upheaval off when you're running, say, Trials of Sekimas, you're running Trials of Chaos, anything like that, because you don't really need upheaval in those places. So you just run the totem like this. You run your Sunder totem like this for your clear, and it's Fire Infusion, Primal Armament, Ancestral Urgency, and Martial Tempo. So this is what you're going to run for your clear in those types of content, as well as a Simulacrum also. So you're going to use this setup in Simulacrum. You Martial Tempo, Urgency, Armament, Fire Infusion with your Sunder totem, and then you just run around. Now, because you don't need as much area of effect in Simulacrum, so that's why you drop the upheaval, because upheaval, it decreases the amount of damage from your fissures, right? So it's mainly just for clearing. And if you're going for a bossing setup, the bossing setup, if you want to do a pinnacle boss, is going to look something like this. Let's just move these out, move this one out, and you probably want this setup right here. So this is your pinnacle boss setup. Your Rolling Slam, Fire Infusion, Tempo, Conk Effect, Primal Armament, right? So this is your pinnacle setup. So if you're going to do a pinnacle boss, you put in your Rolling Slam, Fire Infusion, Martial Tempo, Conk Effect, and Primal Armament. So that's your pinnacle setup.
But for everything else and just comfort, and just kind of moving around the game and just playing regular, this is the best way to set it up in my opinion. Conk effect, primal armament, elemental focus, phys mastery just increases the level of your totem if you don't have a level 40 totem already. You could get a prism of belief to add another level that way as well if you wanted to, which would also probably be fine. But this is those are the swaps you make if you're doing simulacrums, trials of chaos, trials of Sekhmas, those kinds of things, and you want the game to feel better. And those are the swaps you make if you're doing pinnacle bosses. So those are the only swaps you need, and you're not going to need those swaps until you're into like really high tier pinnacle bosses, like 3 or 4.
Okay, so the last thing I'm going to talk about quickly is just iterations on this. So the iterations you could make is if you're running Deepest Tower, I would grab these nodes if you're running Deepest Tower all the time, because you just have these presence area of effect nodes right here. And you could path up this way and probably just go like this, just slide over. And then you could come up, grab all of these nodes, grab all these presence nodes. And you could also, if you're not running Resolute Technique, you could run all this crit. And then you could also grab this crit because you have access to it with this From Nothing diamond. You could also grab all this crit too if you wanted. You could, another thing that if you're dropping Resolute Technique and you don't have lots of accuracy, a good solution to get around that would be to go up here and grab Unexpected Finesse. And if you're grabbing Unexpected Finesse, I would also grab these, because look at this. Like, this is so juicy right here. Like, damage while you have an ally in your presence, and you're running an ally on this build, right? So boom, 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 boom. This is all amazing. And then on top of that, you have 2 more nodes right here for more presence area of effect. So if you are running a Deepest Tower setup on this, you can grab, or if you're running you're not running Resolute Technique and you're running a crit setup instead with like Sunder and Armor Breaker, you could grab all of this, grab all of this, grab all of this, grab this up here, boom, 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 for more crit damage. If you're running the crit Sunder Armor Breaker setup, you could grab all of this if you're running permanent Deepest Tower setup. But yeah, that's just an example of a couple iterations you could make. If you're running a shield full time, it might be worth getting Lay Siege or getting offensive stance as well. But I don't like running a shield full time because you get way more damage with 2 hammers. But yeah, those are just some things I think are worth noting, that if you're going to change this, if you're not running Resolute Technique, this, if you're running Deepest Tower, these presence nodes, these Deepest Tower nodes, these Deepest Tower nodes, these Deepest Tower nodes, and of course these Deepest Tower nodes, and this crit stuff is up here, this crit stuff is right here. But yeah, that's basically it. You could utilize that if you wanted. Maybe you'd want to grab this Armor Breaker stuff as well too if you're running like an Armor Break setup instead of a fire setup. I'm running a fire setup, so a little bit different. But yeah, I thought I might just point out those iterations just in case you wanted to run a crit setup and probably use this, because I think if you're running a crit setup, this is what you're going to need. And there's no point in not grabbing these as well, because this is a big boost of damage. And there's no point in not grabbing these if you're running a Deepest Tower setup, in my opinion. I think that all of these nodes are really good if you're running a Deepest Tower setup. And I think obviously you're going to be pathing this way because you're going to be grabbing these nodes also. So yeah, that's pretty. I better add that onto the end just in case.